Hello, I'm Dennis Pullin. One of my favorite parts about being president and CEO of Virtua Health is getting to know our colleagues and the many ways they are here for good. Each person contributes to healthy communities, and each person has a story to tell. Let's meet one. Well, thanks for joining us on Here for Good, the Inside Edition.
Thank you, sir.
So tell me a little bit about how long you've been at Virtua and what's your role and sort of what your day-to-day looks like.
So I started in Virtua in August of 2024, so a little about a year and a half now. I am the emergency preparedness coordinator for the entire health system. Each day is different. An emergency is never the same, but I start my days every day by signing on the morning huddles for our different hospitals and our different organizations and seeing what happened the day before, the night before.
So you come to work each day not knowing what you might face, just because of the mere definition of emergency preparedness is that being ready for the unanticipated and the unknown, right?
Absolutely, every day is different.
What drew you into this space to begin with? It's not every day you run in, or at least I don't run into people every day that are emergency preparedness professionals. So what was it that sort of drew you in?
Growing up, I was always brought to kind of giving back to the community. My parents, my father, my mother always gave back to our Indian community and the Hindu community in Berlin. So it was something I always wanted to do. In 2008, right after graduating high school, I joined the Berlin Fire Company as a volunteer firefighter. I've been a volunteer firefighter since then. In 2013, I was approached by one of our members in the fire department and asked me, hey, would you be interested in being on our emergency management team for Berlin Borough? And I've been with emergency management in Berlin Borough since 2019. I'm now the departmental coordinator in charge of the entire coordination and 3 other individuals.
How did you learn to stay calm in such stressful situations? And oftentimes may be the worst day of somebody's life, but in your role, it's important for you to maintain a certain levelness.
Prior to my employment with Virtua, I worked as a 911 dispatcher and operator for 10 years. During that time, I would always tell them, just remember, people are calling you for help. And you are that calm voice, whether it's you're working the night shift at 3 o'clock in the morning or it's 10 a.m. during the day and somebody just found their loved one unresponsive. You are that calm voice that you need to just be that same way throughout the entire conversation because you don't want to excite them. And that's how I lead with emergency management in our hospitals too.
You work with leaders across the entire organization, and you don't work with them every day. So sometimes, there's a lack of, familiarity with certain folks. How do you sort of define what successful collaboration looks like?
I'm big on teamwork. You will hear me talk about team and our team every day. I do speak with our hospital presidents, our VP CNOs, our risk safety managers, our EVS, our infection prevention, everybody at some point throughout the week, just kind of like a check-in, like, hey, what do you need? Is there something that I can do? Is something I can do better or differently to assist you to get your job done in a better way?
What about the people, though, that you don't get to talk to on a regular basis? What would you like for them to better understand about emergency management?
With emergency management, it's always like that group, or there's people that think like, hey, Rushi's here or Carly's here or Matt's here. They're going to take over and they're going to make this incident go away. Or they're going to make this all better.
They can step back and let you do your thing.
And I really want to push this. And somebody taught me this years and years ago was when emergency management comes, they're there as the biggest crutch that you'll ever have. That lifeline on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that knows the answer and is going to help you get to the bottom of your disaster. We're there as your subject matter experts, and we're there to help you figure out the problem. But we'll never take over and tell you, Mr. Pullin, this is what you have to do. We will give you the best advice and tell you this is what you should do. And here's our emergency operations plans on why we should be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, a moment ago, you mentioned community. Talk to me a little bit about ways in which you give back and perhaps why. You mentioned your mom and your dad and some of the things that they instilled in you and some of the things that they were very active in. So talk a little bit about beyond the two of them, what really motivates you to give back?
I talk about this a lot, and I think talking about my father is always a good thing for me because unfortunately, we lost my father a year and a half ago.
But
Um,
clearly, he played a big role
Huge role, absolutely.
in who you are today.
My dad moved to this country from India at a young age of 17 with nearly nothing in his pocket, and he always instilled in us to work hard for what you want and be proud of what you have. It's in me to just want to help people. I'm a part of this organization called the Families Behind the Badge Children's Foundation. It's based out of Philadelphia. They build relationships with the inner city kids and the police officers to show that they're there to help you. And then what we do is we do this bike ride in July. It's actually July 26th. I've done it for the last 9 years. It goes from the Ben Franklin Bridge in Philadelphia to Atlantic City, the Showboat Casino. That organization gives back so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I wanna go back to your comment about your father. Clearly, you speak about him with such pride and such joy and the impact that he's had on you, but I know you and your family also got to experience Virtua in a different kind of way, unfortunately. You mind sharing sorta how that experience, impacted you?
February 13th of 2025, we lost my father. Um, we were at Virtua Voorhees on the second floor in the ICU, and we were given care by a nurse that, when I say well above and beyond her duties as a nurse, it's an exaggeration. She was absolutely fantastic. She assured us that what we were going through was of course it was emotional and sad, but it was okay to feel the way we were feeling and the decisions we had to make. And my mom is alone in the corner just holding my dad's hand, and there she is, crying with my mom, holding her hand, compassionate. Really just gave the love and care to all of us that it was the worst day of our life.
So on the worst day of your life, you were able to witness true humanity at its best.
And one thing that will stick with me forever until the day I pass on is I took that long walk from the room to the elevator to leave. Million thoughts are going through my head. The nurse is yelling my name down the hallway to stop, and she hands me my father's final heartbeat on a piece of paper. And she had eight or nine rolled up and said, "Please give these to your family. It's very important."
That is a great example of what a champion of humanity looks like. She went above and beyond to make sure that she not only took participated in taking care of your dad, but also to help you guys start to heal. You mentioned your sister. Now, I know your sister is a business owner. She does a pretty unique business, and you have a small part in that. Describe to me a little bit about your sister's work.
She owns a business called Ruse Mini Flips and Treats. She does mini pancakes. She does cookies, cake pops, and all these other things. Business is fantastic. I'm referred to as the lead flipper. The support we get from Virtua staff is fantastic. I can't say that there's an event that we haven't been at that somebody from Virtua shows up because they saw it on the colleague Facebook, or they saw it because another colleague talked about it, or somebody posted about it.
Is there any advice you would give someone who really wants to make a difference in their community that might be challenged with how to step out of their comfort zone and do some of the things, not necessarily what you do, but anything. There are many ways that we can contribute. What piece of advice would you give?
My biggest advice would be just look into your community groups, look into your churches, your temples, and see who you can help, because there's so many organizations within those organizations that have these connections. The different cathedral kitchens and the soup kitchens and all these other places in the cities that can benefit from an individual just walking in and saying, "Hey, I can give you 5 hours a month."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it really helps because it gives back so much, and you're given to somebody who doesn't have it.
Between work and all of the things that you do from a volunteer perspective, is there any free time, and what do you do with your free time?
I have a godson. His name is Asher, and he is the light of my life. We have a great time. I've had a handshake since he was a year old. When things don't look like they're going so great, you just stop over and see him. You forget about what's happening in the world.
Well, listen, I thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey, your passions, around community and service and the things that make you light up. So thank you for joining us on Here for Good, the Inside Edition.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for having me.
As always, another really thoughtful and compassionate story about what it means to be here for good and how you might also think about giving back to your community. So, again, join us for our next episode of Here for Good, the Inside Edition.